Hey everybody, it's your pal Mike Zombie, and this week we're going to talk about Absolution is Now Public from 2013. This is a film I don't think you can get a hold of yet, to be completely honest. I think it's in the festival circuit now, with a lot of these films that are just making their way out there to be seen for festival consideration, festivals, some of which won't touch it if it's already out there available for everybody to see. So I don't think you can see this quite yet. Now, this was recommended to me by a certain man that I hold in high esteem, Michael Baliff, from 2 Hours, a film that's kicking the shit out of everything else on the circuit right now, and deservedly so. It's a refreshing, great take on a zombie film. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. Anyway, he got a hold of me and said, "Hey, Mike." And I was like, "Hey, what's up, Mike?" And he's like, "A friend of mine made a film called Absolution is Now Public. Would you check it out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, no problem." I'm glad I did. Now, you guys know I'm going to have something shitty to say and something positive to say. This is a brief film. It's 16 minutes long. I'm going to try not to ruin it for you, but I've got to at least tell you about it since you can't see it. I'm not doing this just to make a commercial, so I need to tell you a little bit more about it. It's about a crazy guy, but not so crazy that he's a psychopath. He's the crazy guy that I think many of us have met somewhere in your life. I think this, like I said, goes for everybody. You have someone in your family that's a little crazy, a guy you worked with, maybe talked a lot about guns, and nothing wrong with guns, folks, but when every other word you talk about is guns, that guy, or conspiracy, or just everybody's known somebody that was a little off. Okay, and even better, have you known somebody in your life that killed themselves or someone else, and you thought to yourself, well, fuck, he was a little weird, but, he was okay? No, he wasn't okay. Now, I've known a few people that killed themselves, to be honest. My brother being one of them. Ooh, I don't think I've ever said that before. Well, fuck it, now I have. I'm not going to go into details, but yeah, my brother also killed himself a couple years ago. And this guy, Jace, who's played by James Morris, who co-wrote it with Michael Christensen. Michael Christensen did direct. Sorry, I'm stumbling. I'm still tripping that I haven't spoken about my brother until just now, so I'm kind of a bit off. Anyway, well, leaving that aside. He's in love with a woman, and Jace is making a lot of use out of digital media. He's collecting his thoughts on video and sharing them, and they show him going to Facebook and other things and he's talking about, in large, he's talking about technology and how it's changing how we interact. And this is very true. When they wrote this, it's changing. To look back to when I was maybe 20, and how I communicate with my friends and how I do it now as a 39-year-old guy. It's completely different. The world's changed. How we talk has changed. Language has changed. And how we collect that data and how we pass it around and how it's preserved has exponentially changed. And this film does touch on that. It's easy to throw this aside as just, it's a murder thing. It's a psychopathic thing. And no, it's got a great underlying message about how the times, frankly, are a-changing. And how we share it with this technology, how we spread it, and I think more importantly, they should say the evil that men do live on after them. Well, that's very true nowadays when everything is zeros and ones and simple code. Digital signal can live forever. Anyway, I'm jumping off the boat. Okay, so I'll read the IMDb synopsis here. Isolated by his own madness, Jace obsesses over the loss of a woman he barely knew. His only comfort is found in the unprovoked belief that he must seek revenge on a man he has never met. Now I'm immediately going to take a swipe at the film. I have my notes. I made a page of notes because, you know what, Michael's a friend, and I wanted to make sure I did him right, and I watched this 3 times. I'm not half-assing it. Now, initially, I'm calling you guys out for being silly because you put in the beginning, it's rated R. Really? By who? Not by the MPAA. There's no label. And there was nothing in this clip that would warrant anything past a PG-13. If that. The beauty of this clip is they don't have to be dirty. They don't have to be graphic. They don't have to be vulgar. They fuck with you inside your head. And this fucked with me because, oddly enough, I have some personal links to this. And this is just, nobody knows this, but this is filmed, I think, in central Utah, and I've spent some time in Utah. I've got family in Utah. So I'm like, okay, I pretty much know where they're filming. But as I was saying, Jace is carrying on a rolling dialogue with the camera, explaining what he's thinking, what he's feeling, what he feels he must do. And you kind of even get the sense that he knows that he's not quite right. He's living two lives. He's regrettably living the life he's in, and in his mind, he's living this other life where he's very much in love with a woman, Lauren. And in his head, you can tell only by the leaps and bounds that he's taking and how he talks about it and how he deals with her. You can tell two things. One, that it can't be real. The way he's talking about her and including her, and the way he gets to her in his own conversation, you can tell that he doesn't have this relationship that he's saying that he does. And you even wonder a little bit if he knows her. And he does. She was, and they don't say exactly, but she's either his former psychiatrist or psychologist. And he's looking at her Facebook profile, and he's using the mouse. And I noticed this. He's correct. Not to be creepy, but this was genius. So whoever put this in, pure genius. They get a shot of him using the mouse, caressing her breasts, and somebody tagged the photo or something, so like a name pops up. So it's evident that he's loving her digitally. He's showing her affection digitally, and it's all one-sided. Not much different from a person carrying on a dialogue with their phone, texting or talking. Initially, it's going straight to the device. It's not going to the person immediately. And that was kind of what I felt from this. So you know the guy's not quite on the rails, but he doesn't seem way off. He seems a little dramatic. He seems a little emotional. I think dramatic would be a great way to go. You think, this guy he's just talking shit. You know, he's just being dramatic. He's got the camera in front of him. And this woman, his assuming psychiatrist, but it's also important to say that he sets up a meeting with her, and he's talking about, she sent me a message. She's happy to see me. She's excited. She thanked me for getting in contact with her, and she, it's going to be great, and we're going to go have lunch. And that's not what happened. It was probably a very friendly yet professional and clinical email sent back. Yes, I'll meet you for lunch. And the deal is his parents are supposed to be there with him. So I'm also left to wonder if she had been a psychologist, maybe through school. But to be honest, she doesn't look much older than him. So that might have been a casting issue. I don't exactly know, but it didn't knock me out of it. But I'm thinking the fact that the parents were involved, it makes me think that she was with him much earlier than they let on in the film. And that's fine. That could be me reading into it. She lost her daughter because a drunken pharmacist in town prescribed the wrong thing, prescribed too much, obviously trapped under his own addiction, not doing his job properly, and people die. Well, the girl died. And they go to lunch, meaning Jason Lauren, and she's very nice. Hey, it's great to see you. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad things are coming along. But she kind of asks early on, are your parents going to show up? Because she seems uncomfortable to meet with him alone. She knows it's inappropriate, but to him, no. This is his chance to lay it on the line. He's going to try to bridge that gap between the life he lives and the life he's worked himself up in his mind that he deserves, that he should be with her, that he's going to protect her and make things right. And this was one of my biggest gripes about this film. The paper coming back up. He says to her, well, it's how he asks, because he loves her. It's obvious. He's very much in love with her, much more, loving her on a level she'll never know, and even as a psychiatrist or psychologist will never understand unless she's got the same kind of sickness he does. But he says to her, I want to ask you something about your dead daughter. And that struck me really odd. That's not a loving way to say it. I mean, maybe you would say, I need to ask you something about your daughter. She already knows that her daughter's dead. And to say it, it wasn't odd to say it in a rush, because when you're nervous about speaking to somebody, sometimes you talk faster, sometimes you blurt things out. I totally accept that. And I wonder if it was written in that way for him to cross that line between loving and anger, because to not be able to have her on some level has got to anger him as well. Has to. And since we don't really understand where he's coming from, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, to be honest. But she gets very uncomfortable, and he suddenly starts talking about conspiracy, and they're trying to, and she was murdered, and she leaves. Now, he still sits there and he keeps talking, which leads us into he's a little more delusional than we thought. Or maybe he's just saying it over and over and out loud, trying to hear where it went wrong. And I think maybe that's the case. Because personally, I find that when I've had an interaction, didn't go well, and I'm like in the car driving away, I'll kind of go over. I'll re-say what I said and try to analyze. Did I say something wrong? Did I speak out of turn? I just do that. I worry about communications. And so what he does is he realizes he's not going to get her back, but he does truly, in his own sick way, he loves her. And he feels compelled to kill the pharmacist, who's still drinking, by the way. Now, the pharmacist, to me, kind of looked a little scruffy, a little on the homeless side. I'm sure he's not in real life, but the way they had him set up, and he's quite the drinker. Now, we see him at the pharmacy taking a couple snorts off a bottle, which, I don't know. I think if you were, because he had to have been at least to some degree popped for, involuntary manslaughter or something? It wouldn't have been murder, obviously. I would be surprised if a person in that capacity would still keep drinking. But then again, that is the mark of a true alcoholic and a functioning alcoholic, because he's drinking at work. He's checking his BAC before he drives home, and he gets home and there's bottles everywhere. Now, Jace has planned this. He's waiting in the house, and the pharmacist shows up and he's drinking, and Jace, who's capturing all this on film, shoots him twice. And I will say a credit to the direction of Michael Christensen, that I believe his name is Rick, the pharmacist, hit the ground and was struggling to breathe and was coughing. And it wasn't overly dramatic. It wasn't gore. It wasn't film. You know what it was? To me, it was real. And I honestly believe if someone got shot in the chest twice next to me, that's what they would do. They would fall and die exactly the way he did. So my hat's off to you. That was one of the better shooting deaths I've seen in a film in a long time, across any film. That was really, really well done. I was like, oh, and I rewound it a couple times like, yeah, ooh, shit, that was pretty good. It might seem kind of stupid to say somebody died realistically, but nowadays people are compelled to fire a gun that has 800 bullets 600 times spraying before they actually hit a person, and then the person does a series of backflips and falls down and gasps and screams rosebud and a bunch of other bullshit before they actually expire. That wasn't the case here. This was done well. It's a credit to an actor, whatever his experience level is, when he knows, you know what, I just need to do this right. It just needs to be believable. I don't need to make it about me. I'm not singing the national anthem, before the game where I have to hit 17 octaves and waver. Hate when people do that. Anyway, so Jace captured the footage. He goes back home, and we now find out he's an editor, I believe, and he starts putting it together. Now, the beauty of this is this scene was easy to do because your film is partially in post-production at this point anyway. So you just, hey, you know what? I've already got Premiere or Avid or whatever the fuck they're running, and let's just bring the camera over here and catch some of it, which I thought was great use of your own editing equipment, by the way. But he puts together a video presentation and beautifully, masterfully puts it up on YouTube so that his crime is now exposed. And it's amazing that we live in a day and age where you could really do this. You could commit a crime, document it, put a great soundtrack on top of it, and put it out there for the world to see. And he does this knowing it's over, because he puts it up there, drives to Lauren's house, and kills himself in the driveway. It was kind of sad. Now, looking back at this, I don't think this film broke any ground. No, it's a 16-minute entertaining thriller. It's not bloody, not gory, but it is very well made and believable. Now, what I liked about this, this is going to sound stupid. It's funny. When I talk to people, I really listen to them. And people who actually sit down with me get a kick out of the fact that I really do listen. I talk to them about what they said to me, and I bring it up again later on, and I can reference exactly what they said because I'm a true listener. Now, so I look for personal connections no matter what I do. Now, I had a couple here. And just so you guys know, I really did watch this. Jace is typing in a search bar, and one of the close links that pops up is MetaFast. I immediately laughed because I was almost on a MetaFast plan myself and ended up going on OptiFast. So I laughed. I'm like, okay, I can relate to that. And also, the pharmacist, when he's walking around inside getting ready to go and he's drinking, there's a couple of boxes behind him that are labeled Rexam. Well, I used to work for a company that used to haul for Rexam, so I used to load tons of it. I actually worked for the canning division. Rexam also makes all the Budweiser cans, all the Coca-Cola cans, Sprite, any Coca-Cola product. Rexam Metals makes that. So that I had 2 personal links to this film, and I guess 3 if you count the suicide of my brother. Which now I'm all brought down. Doesn't matter though. It's done is done. So I wish you could see this. You'll probably see it soon enough. Oh, and it's important to point out that reading the credits, I was pleased to see that the masterful visual effects, of course, were completed by none other than Michael Bailiff, folks. God damn if he isn't doing stuff great all over the place. Anyways, on the Berninsky scale, be it a buy it, borrow it, or don't bother, this is definitely a borrow. It was well worth a watch, and hopefully at some point soon you'll be able to see it. And I'm sure Michael will let me know when you can. I did get a link to download for my viewing, but I can't share that with you. That's not right. So I'm sure it'll be released to the public. Forthcoming. Let it run in the circuit. If you're at a festival and they're going to show Absolution is now public, get your ass in there and see it. Other than that, you're going to have to wait like everybody else. All right, guys. Thanks.
Hey, Gord.
Hey, Steve.
You know, it's been a while. I'm thinking we need to do a new promo.
Yeah, good idea. But, these...